Old School Lane Casual Chats is brought to you by Old School Lane, producing various content from blogs, videos, and podcasts discussing about movies, TV shows, video games, and everything else in between since 2011. You can check out the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, Overcast, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and YouTube. We're associated with Channel Frederator, Manic Expression, The Comic Book Cast, and The Arun Mehta Show. And welcome to a new episode of Casual Chats. I am Patricia, and I'm here with Arun Mehta from the Arun Mehta Show.
Hey, it's like I keep randomly appearing back on your show for some strange reason.
Yeah, and the reason why is because I'm here in your house for some strange reason.
Yeah, I wonder why that is.
I have no idea.
Maybe you decided to become my roommate.
Yes, I decided to travel about 3,000 miles away just so I can be your roommate.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're perfectly innocent.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway,
okay.
So yeah, let's talk about today's movie, shall we? So we decided that we were going to be cleaning up the remaining animated films that had premiered in 2023. I thought to myself, you know what? This particular movie that came out on Netflix is creating a surprisingly amount of buzz from people who thought it was just going to be some small animated movie that just came out on Netflix. But no, it turned out to be quite a big hit.
Yeah, and would you believe it? It stars Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
In an animated movie. Like,
Yeah.
and let's be honest, like, for a long time, we've joked about Adam Sandler in an animated movie, and what's the one movie that we always go to when it comes to an animated Adam Sandler movie? It's always 8 Crazy Nights.
Or Hotel Transylvania.
I mean, to be fair, Hotel Transylvania is still, you know, he has his fans and everything like that, but I think you'll find very few fans of 8 Crazy Nights in regards to, you know, that, but, you know, finally, you know, I just feel like, you know, Happy Madison have finally cracked it, you know, like, this Leo, in my opinion, I think is a fantastic, you know, animated movie.
Yeah, and apparently a lot of the critics seem to agree with this, where they were saying that it was a surprisingly charming, funny movie that had a really great lesson to be learned. And surprisingly enough, this movie has actually gotten a lot more critical acclaim than Disney's Wish.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, putting Disney's Wish aside, because obviously in the last couple of podcasts, you know, you and I have kind of made fun of it a little bit, you know, and obviously we've got the casual chat for Wish actually coming up, you know, at some point. And but the thing is that I think Leo, what I think it does very well, it doesn't feel very Dr. Seuss-ish. This one, like, it's in a way, when you think about it, like, it's a lizard that, you know, kids take home, and then all of a sudden it speaks to them and it says that they're special, and but then obviously he works out their problems, and you know, even though that he himself, you know, proclaims to want to be free, everything like that. I think there's a bit of Dr. Seuss in this tale a little bit, really. I mean, obviously there's not the narration, and obviously there's, you know, it misses out. Obviously there's a few more, like, you know, edgy aspects to it rather than that Dr. Seuss wouldn't put in, but you know, like, it does feel like that in a way. Strangely enough,
I guess so, because, you know, you have a sense of colorful characters, and you have a lot of the humor and the whimsy that you would expect for a Dr. Seuss adaptation, but without the cringy pop culture references and trying to be modern to the kids, where essentially you have the life lesson that people are able to gravitate towards, where people were able to say, you know what, I mean, you're going into a particular point in your life where you're no longer going to be a kid, you're going to become a teenager, and this is going to be the last year of your life, so you might as well enjoy it and just know that you're not always going to get the answers. I haven't felt something like this since recess school's out.
Yeah. So, I mean, should we go into the plot of this? Longtime class pet Leo and the Taratua and Squirtle the turtle live in a 5th grade classroom in Fort Myers Elementary School. During a parent-teacher conference, the 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Salinas, announces her maternity leave, and the parents are displeased with the substitute teacher that the principal has selected to cover Miss Salinas. Leo overhears one of the parents saying that tuataras, am I pronouncing it correctly? Tuataras only live to be 75 years old, and despair when he realizes that he's 74 and has not accomplished his dreams of going to the Everglades. The next day, the strict substitute, Miss Malkin, arrives and is quickly loathed by the students. Leo is taken home for the weekend by Summer, who is an overly talkative girl. While trying to make his escape, Leo accidentally reveals to Summer that he can talk and suggests to her that she asks more questions to improve her conversation and classmates. And so as a result, this gets him very popular, and then more students are taken forth and so forth and so forth. And so the formula kind of like repeats, but at the same time, it doesn't become like a repetitive in a way. Like, each child will take Leo home, and then he will talk to them about their problems, and then obviously they get more confident as a result. And to be honest, it's fun going through this journey with Leo. It really is.
Yeah, so Leo was born in 1949, and he has become this class pet at the Fort Myers Elementary School, and he has seen everything. He has seen all types of problems from multiple students across many generations, and so it makes a lot of sense why he's able to connect with the students so well, because he's seen it all. It's nothing new to him, and so when he talks to the students and he connects with them, that's when the opportunity comes in, where the students are starting to become a little bit more confident about their own social problems, their own personal problems, and whether they can be able to go into the next step of passing the 5th grade and going to the 6th grade, and especially since they have a new substitute teacher, which they don't like.
Yeah, I love the idea of like Leo can only understand fractions because he's not in a class low enough to learn about pluses and minuses.
Yeah, and so he decides that he's going to fake a fire drill so that all the class pets can come out, and then finally he's able to talk to the 2nd grade class pet, which is a bunny, which is named Cinnabon, which is adorable, by the way. And then he realizes that he is 74 years old, and tuataras live up to be 75, and so he thinks that this is his last year to live, and so he's going to make the best out of it.
Yeah, I love the idea that, he's so afraid of, leaving this earth, and then, he has a funeral, that all the kids go around and, they basically have nothing to say about the class pet.
Yeah, like they did with the class hamster, and it's like, oh, I like the way that he breathed. Oh, I like that one spot on his, in his fur. I don't have anything to say at all. And so he's afraid that, him living for 75 years in a classroom where he saw easily hundreds of students, and he's afraid that he's not going to leave any legacy behind.
It kind of reminds me, remember when Homer talks from The Simpsons talks about his funeral, and it's just him basically being put in a skip and basically just being dumped into the grave while dogs gnaw on his feet. It kind of reminds me of that joke a little bit, really. While other people around him have had more successful careers. It's yeah, I think that's brilliant in that regard. But I think great setup, by the way. I love this. This is what I think some modern movies do lack. Here's this setup. They sat down and thought, okay, here's Leo. He's the class pet. So what's the likely thing that's going to happen to him? Oh, well, kids are going to take him home and we'll talk about their problems, and how amazing would it be if he actually talked. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of, this is a relatable situation because, we've all had the class pet, haven't we? I mean, to be fair, I haven't taken it home, because, but to be fair, I had my own pets at home and things like that. So, this was a great way to set this up.
Yeah, and now that you brought it up, what class pets did you remember when you were a kid?
Oh, it was gerbils and hamsters.
I remember when I was in, I think it was either in kindergarten or 1st grade, my teacher had a fish tank, and it was with hermit crabs.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the first time I actually learned about hermit crabs and
We
how
one time had eggs and they hatched into chicks, but
I had that too.
Yeah, but I mean, like they were like they were kept under strict supervision. Like, you couldn't play with them or anything.
No,
like
no,
that,
no, and it
like,
was and for anything, it was just for a science experiment anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, you had to like keep an eye on the chicks being hatched and find out if they're healthy or not. How long the incubation process was forming. So yeah, those are what I recall the only pets that I remember.
Yeah, like I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in regards to class pets, I mean, like dare I say, I think in American schools, I think they're far more varied. I think than they are, at least in British schools. Maybe I might be wrong about that. Someone in the comment section who say, "Oh, I grew up with this pet," or "I grew up with that pet." Well, I mean, by all means, tell me. But I mean, in the schools that I was in, at the time, it tends to be kind of like just furry friends, if anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like the setup that it was able to bring towards the plot where Leo wants to leave and escape his tank so he can go over to the Everglades. And he even sings about, oh, by the way, this is a musical, believe it or not. Like, I didn't even know that this was a musical.
Well, yeah, like, and also some of them are actually very surprising as well. It's funny because there's some really good songs in it, and then I'm pretty sure they did this on purpose. They put in a really bad song in as well about, telling him to, stop crying and basically, I guarantee you they did that on purpose. It seems like they said, oh, well, every animated movie has like a terrible song number. Like, Thumbelina has Marry the Mole, and, I think we said before in Little Mermaid, like, the Scuttlebutt song was obviously not that great either. It seems like there's always seems to be that one song that always sticks out, and also the Batty rap also from, Ferngully the Last Rainforest. Yeah, exactly. So there's always that bad song number. I get the feeling like they did this on purpose. Yeah, like there's always that one bad song number in every animated movie.
Yeah, and it's bad on purpose because we have the scene in which Leo is singing a lullaby to one of the students, and she is crying because Leo reminded her of her grandfather, who was the only person who understood her, and he's singing the song about, like, don't cry because crying is for wusses, and, don't cry, crying is for babies, and, be strong, hold it in, and then you would think, like, wow, that was a terrible song, and then she gets her science book and saying, like, no, crying is a good thing because it releases this and this and that, and it's supposed to be good for you, and then he learns a lesson. It's like, wow, you're able to take what would essentially be a horrible song and make it into a valuable lesson. Good on you.
There's another song that actually comes to mind. Remember Forget About Love by Iago? Was that in the...
Return of Jafar.
Return of Jafar, yeah. That was a pretty terrible song number as well. Mind you, like, it was funny, but, like, it wasn't... It didn't really further the story any further.
I mean, it did, because that was the point in which Jasmine decided to forgive Aladdin after he lied about hiding Iago from her father.
Oh, okay, then.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I really like that moment where Lindsay Ellis, aka the nostalgia chick, was joking about the fact that Gilbert Gottfried got to get 2 songs in a movie where he clearly is not a singer. It's like, hey, Gilbert, yeah, you get to have 2 song numbers. Okay.
Well, to be fair, though, they were warranted because, the first song number that, I'm sorry we're going completely off topic. The first song number was obviously him getting rid of Jafar in the well, and then the second one was about, he's trying to convince Jasmine to move away from Aladdin. So
yes.
they were justified, yes. I guess, in that case. So it's just unfortunately Gilbert Gottfried happened to be the one who had to sing them both.
Yeah, and at least...
I hope he charged double that day.
I guess so. Yeah, but at least Adam Sandler is a great singer. I mean, we've seen this before in SNL, in which he's always in his guitar and he's performing his songs, whether you know the Turkey song or whether you know the Hanukkah song. And recently I saw a clip of his one night show where he actually performed this amazing song tributing Chris Farley. So yeah, he's a great singer.
The one thing I'm glad about is that, because when I first walked into this, I thought it was just basically just going to be Adam Sandler. Him. But no, he puts on, he thinks about Leo, and he actually puts on a genuine voice. Like, this is like, an elderly pet that is in there. And, obviously he has this sarcasm to it. And, he has this, personality to it. And I think Adam Sandler does a really good job in, making us believe this is Leo. And I wasn't expecting that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, especially since in 8 Crazy Nights, he did voice other characters other than just Davy Stone.
But they weren't great, let's be honest with you.
Yeah, like, for example, when he voiced as Whitey, the only reason why he had that, like, really scratchy, really voice was because he was impersonating Dana Carvey in that sketch show.
I just thought Mickey Mouse was having a bad day.
No, but the reason why was because it was an impersonation on David Carney's character, and so he decided that he really liked that voice, so he's going to put it into the old man.
Yeah, I just think that, but this, I think, goes really well. I think, dare I say, like, this is Adam Sandler's strong point, I think. I think he's very good at taking a character, and when he's told what this character is, then he goes and gives this voice, and it's like, wow. It's like, you remember when Mike Myers, like, decided to say, oh, I'm going to give Shrek the Scottish accent in that, and, look how phenomenal it is. I think this should be a thing. Like, I think they should say, okay, if we're going to get this celebrity to come in here, let's show him the picture of, like, what we visualize this guy to be, and we want you to think about what voice it will be, and then, they go through a few takes with it, and there it is. I just, because, I mean, like, to be fair, though, I mean, the reverse sometimes can be better. I mean, like, you remember when Robin Williams was shown all those times when he was doing stand-up, and they basically did pencil drawings of Genie, and they showed that to him, and he thought it was hilarious. So I guess the reverse can work, but at the same time, I think voice actors should get a say in, like, how, this guy should sound.
Yeah, exactly. Like, another example I can think of is Steve Carell when he was voicing as Gru in Despicable Me. He doesn't sound like Steve Carell. He sounds like a evil, maniacal, yet goofy Russian guy who tries to be the bad guy.
Yeah, and that's what that character should be. And, so I think, I'm really glad that Adam Sandler was able to be given, like, the liberty to, like, be able to do that.
It makes a lot of sense because that it is his production studio that is making this movie. He was one of the co-writers of this movie alongside with Robert Smigel, who was a major SNL writer at the time, and he's also the creator of Triumph, the insult comic dog. But also, he wrote the first 2 Hotel Transylvania movies.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's a great thing as well because, like, it's not just like, oh, hey, we're just going to do an SNL sketch of Leo. Like, like, this isn't what this movie is.
No.
Like, they put some heart and they put some soul into this. And, like, I'm just very... Here's the thing, like, I've seen some pretty bad Adam Sandler movies. I've got to be honest with you. There's some pretty terrible ones out there.
I have seen some really bad ones.
Check your local charity shop for all the DVDs with Adam Sandler and terrible movies.
Tell that story, by the way.
Oh yeah, like one time I was going to do a series of movie reviews called Charity Shop Theatre, and so when I walked in, like, you won't believe the amount of Adam Sandler movies that were actually on, and yeah, like, Adam Sandler was very popular at the time. Like, we're talking like, years ago when I was thinking of doing this, and I just thought, well, hang on a second, if I'm just going to do this, I'll just end up basically just doing, either some really popular movies or Adam Sandler movies. That'll basically, there's no, like, in between.
Right.
In all of this, and although it's not like some very obscure DVDs or like some obscure movies, kind of like because you and I once went into a charity shop, looking for vinyl records, and we saw some like very obscure stuff, and maybe if we were going to do reviews on that, mind you, DCMA might take all those down if we did them. Yeah, sure. Exactly. But yeah, I just think that with Adam Sandler, I've seen some pretty terrible stuff unfortunately from him. It's really refreshing when I get to put in this movie and I get to watch him basically be at his best.
Yeah, and to be fair, in recent years, he's been doing really great movies. Like, for example, there's the Meyerowitz Story and Uncut Gems, which are more of his serious roles. Hustle, which is about him as a basketball coach recruiter. I saw that movie just a few months ago, and I absolutely loved it. And from what I understand, he did a movie with his daughters called This Is Not My Bat Mitzvah, which, speaking of which, 2 of his daughters are in this movie. There's Summer and Jaka. So yeah, I think that
Sadie Sandler's in there too.
Yeah, so yeah, Sadie and Sunny are his daughters, and Jackie is his wife.
Yeah,
and we already know that Adam Sandler does a similar thing, very similar to Tim Burton and Wes Anderson, in which he casts his friends to be a part of the movie. Rob Schneider, he's been friends since they were.
Let's be honest, that's been done since day one of movie rising, isn't it? Like we all have like our group of like our contacts, so we say, yeah, we're going to get this guy for a movie. Quentin Tarantino. How many times has Samuel L. Jackson been in a Quentin Tarantino movie?
Exactly, yeah. And how many times in a Tim Burton movie have we seen Michael Keaton or Johnny Depp?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's no exception here.
You bring in people you can trust to do the job well.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that they do a really good job here. I mean, like, it's not too distracting, and they also fit the characters really, really well. And all the characters actually are pretty interesting. You actually are you're actually want to be invested in what they're going through, because
that's the great thing about this movie. They give time to everybody, including Miss Melvin, who
Miss Malkin.
Malkin, because of Melvin, but Miss Malkin the Martian. But I mean, like, Miss Malkin. Because like every single character has a backstory in all of this, and they're not just like coming in here and basically just being stereotypes. Like there's a reason why they came into their being, effectively. Like there's one class who thinks she has to be super popular in order basically to be verified by her peers, and she doesn't have to be, so there's that, and then there's the girl who basically gossips on too much, and then it's like Leo comes in and says, just slow down and ask a question, because then people will feel validated because of that.
Yeah, and then there's one student who's been held back twice, and he feels that he's not smart enough, and so Leo
that's hilarious. Like when Squirtle the turtle basically comes in and tries to have a go at this, and he ends up basically being thrown through the window with weirdo saved around his shell.
I have to say that one of my favorite things in this movie is the dynamic between Leo and Squirtle. They are hilarious together.
You know what? I think that Squirtle compliments Leo very well, because like they clearly are just like roommates who are kind of like thrust into this situation. They don't necessarily like one another, but they basically have to tolerate one another, and but they do have some sweet moments at the end of the day.
They do, and Bill Burr does a fantastic job as Squirtle. And you may know Bill Burr; he's a comedian. He's also the creator of F is for Family. So yeah, he's a really hilarious guy.
Yeah, I love this chemistry between the two. But mind you, like the great thing about this is there's lots of great chemistry amongst all the characters. Leo goes and meets everybody and makes them all feel wonderful and everything. I mean, like unfortunately, this is the thing about this. Like, as much as I hate the liar reveal, I mean, like, I guess this is like an unintentional way that this has come about. It's not that Leo is like lying to these kids on purpose or anything like that. It's like he's realizing that he's basically transferring his years of knowledge to help these kids out, and trying to be basically like a guardian angel in a way to all of these things. So I don't think that's like there was any like malicious intent in like what he did. And obviously, there's obviously there's the stereotypical like he gets found out and everyone like goes off in a huff, and but then they realize how actually wonderful he actually has been, and then they try and make amends in the final act.
And it makes a lot of sense, because all of these students are going through some serious moments of uncertainty and doubt. Yeah, exactly. They're growing up. And so when Leo tells them, "Oh, you're the only person I've ever told you that I can talk. You're special." And so let's be honest, when you're a kid who's going through a lot of struggles, whether it be with family struggles, whether it be with social struggles, whether it be with any kind of struggles, if somebody tells you, "Hey, you have a very special friend, and this special friend is not friends with anybody else, and you feel special," it makes a lot of sense why they would have a really strong connection towards them.
That's why I said at the very beginning, this fall formula feels very Dr. Seuss, because like it's this magical talking like class pet that and people are going through like some problems in life, and then he basically comes to life, and then does that. I mean, like I just think that I think the way that this whole thing has been put together, I think it's been done 100% correct.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, like, no movie is perfect, as we all know. I mean, there's obviously some flaws in all of this. I mean, mind you, one flaw I don't think is this movie's fault is that, unfortunately, like, wouldn't this be great if this came out in theaters? Like, I mean, I think with the competition that's out there right now, I think it would give it a run for its money.
I do agree, yeah. Both Nimona and Leo would have done gangbusters on the box office, especially since, as we talked about in Wish, 2023 has not been a great year for Disney.
And, imagine if Leo basically came in and basically brought in more bad news for Disney. If, hey, Netflix released this in theaters and competed with our movies and it did better than that. Like, right now, this movie's trending on Netflix at the moment, actually.
Yeah, we saw it in, like, number 8 in the top 10 most trending movies that are coming out.
But that's a great thing for, like, a movie like this.
Exactly. And to be fair, some of the trending movies are, like, Christmas movies, so it makes a lot of sense. But, yeah.
It makes you wonder, did Leo come out at the wrong time? Do you think?
No, I don't think so, because let's be honest, Leo is getting a lot of attention, and like we said before, it's getting more critical praise.
But you think it would get more attention if it was like if it wasn't like released during like a holiday period? It was released kind of like more of a quiet period where not very many movies are getting released. Here comes Leo and basically just wows everybody. And you know, dare I say, maybe it could have hit number one at one point.
Possibly,
for Netflix.
Yeah, that could be a strong possibility. Yeah,
but I get I get movie probably Happy Madison probably didn't get a say in like when things get released. I think they just gave it to Netflix and it's like, okay, we'll release it before Christmas. It's going to be a holiday movie.
Sure.
So,
I guess that does make sense. Yeah. So I think that another thing that I was like genuinely surprised at was the way that they were able to develop the character of Miss Malkin, the substitute teacher, where she appears to be a strict substitute teacher and she uses old-fashioned techniques to teach her students because she feels that that's the way to do it. You know, no more computers. We're going to use books and we're going to time you on doing your assignments. I remember when I used to get that.
Did you get a feeling that this was basically going to be a Professor Poopy Pants situation where it's like, she's just evil and they were basically, the kids were basically going to take over, have a rebellion or something like that. They could have easily gone in that direction.
Oh yeah, easily.
That isn't just like, just saying like within this movie, like that seems to be a theme that seems to be going for us in movies. Like Nimona, for example, there's a revolution in that. In Wish, there's a revolution in that. Like they always seem to be like, oh wait, here's bad guy, okay, revolution now, get rid of bad guy at the end. You know, but they didn't do it in this movie. They actually humanized, Malkin in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, she appears to be very strict, but she's only doing this because she wants to be able to bring out the best in her students, and makes a lot of sense because they're in the 5th grade and they're going to be moving on to middle school afterwards. And she's a substitute teacher, and she doesn't get the credit that she deserves. She's immediately hated by the parents of the students, saying, "Oh, well, it's your fault that my student, that my child is not doing very well in class, and you're mean, and you're not letting her use her computer. You're not giving her extra time to do the tests and all that kind of stuff. Bad teacher. We're gonna get rid of you." And so it's justified on why she's acting so strict, because she's the substitute teacher. It's already going to be an automatic thing that the kids are not going to like you, because the kids already like the teacher that they've been with for months. And when a new person comes in and they're not the same, they're immediately going to say, okay, what can we do to the substitute teacher? Okay, we're going to glue their chairs. We're going to throw spitballs. We're going to do this and this and that. And then when they find out, oh, it's a strict teacher, now they have a justified reason on why they hate this teacher.
Yeah, I think interesting that, they introduced this commentary into it, because let's be honest, this generation of people who are now being parents and having kids of their own, I mean, let's be honest, they grew up with pretty strict teachers, back in the 80s and the 90s, they're not. It's funny because, they seem to portray, these types of, like in Recess, for example, I remember
that there was the substitute teacher episode in which, when Miss Grokey got sick, and then you had this really strict teacher who was able to be above and beyond, all the pranks of all the students, and he gives them an assignment saying, you have to do this or else you're going to fail your test. Everybody is really scared of him, and TJ decides, I'm going to trick this guy. I'm going to find a way to make sure that he's going to get the ultimate prank, and then he learns a valuable lesson. Again, an episode of Hey Arnold was similar to this, in which when Miss Slovak finally left to pursue her golf career, we had a military drill sergeant as the substitute teacher.
Well, we had Mr. Simmons to start off with, and then the military drill sergeant came in after that.
Oh, that's right, you're right.
Chased him away.
Yeah.
But I mean, the problem is, I think there's a lot of people who think that, our teachers back in the day were basically like Miss Grokey or basically like Mr. Simmons. Unfortunately, they weren't.
No.
It's like, and I think because of I think because their teachers were so strict back in that time, I think a lot of people who have grown up in that era and now having kids of their own are of course they're rebelling against their current teachers at the minute, because that's their idea of what they think teachers are.
Yeah.
They don't see behind. This is the problem. There's a lot of parents, I guarantee you, that are out there who never saw the other side of their teacher. I was lucky because I grew up, and a lot of the teachers who I had not retired as of yet, and so I got to basically I once went back to one of my schools, and I got to meet my head teacher, and got to see another side of her basically, and she was really happy to see me effectively. But I used to think that obviously I had my at the time I was autistic, I had Asperger's, so I was a challenging student at the time. But the fact that she saw me and I made it through the other side, she was so happy to see me, and I got to see a different side of her that I never thought I would ever have seen.
That's very nice.
And everything. Yeah, exactly. And the problem is that I think a lot of people who are parents now don't have that experience, and so they immediately say, oh, well, I knew what my teacher was like, and she was awful to me, and so therefore I will then assume that teacher is also being being awful to my kid and will therefore defend in their corner. It's understandable, but it's also it's a terrible take at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, not all teachers are like that. You have to give people chances.
Yeah, and so Miss Malkin eventually gets Leo for herself because every single student has Leo, and she's wondering, wait a minute, why is it that everybody loves this lizard? And so she brings him over, and then that's when she reveals her backstory that, she wanted to be a teacher because she was influenced by her teacher when she was a kid. And so she decides that she's going to go into the school and she's going to teach to the best of her abilities. But she's a substitute teacher, she's very strict, and nobody likes her. And so she thinks that because the students are doing so well, she thinks that was her teaching, but no, it ended up being Leo's. And so she is equally just as heartbroken because there's this whole subplot about a competition that they're doing where they're supposed to be doing like some sort of history presentation and science fairs and a whole bunch of other things. And the best class that does it gets to have a field trip to go over to this theme park. And so the students are thinking, well, we're never going to do it because, Miss Malkin is such a strict teacher. But because of Leo's guidance, they're able to bring out the best of themselves. And Miss Malkin thinks, oh, wow, it's my teaching that does this. But no, it was Leo who did it. And she becomes genuinely heartbroken. And she decides that she's going to accomplish his quote unquote dreams and drops him off at the Everglades and takes the credit for herself. Yeah, so again, I think that this is kind of a justified reason on why her character arc works so well. Whether you want to see her as like the mean, awful substitute teacher or a substitute teacher who has a justifiable backstory on why she ends up being the strict person that she is. So again, it makes a lot of sense on why her character is like this, and I think it works really, really well.
Yeah. So, then, obviously we get to the part where she ends up dumping Leo over at the Everglades, and I just think that at one point she actually stopped because she actually felt really terrible about what she was doing, and then she obviously drove off, and it's kind of funny how the kids are so forgiving of Miss Malkin when she basically finds she drops that she got rid of Leo the Everglades, and then they decide, okay, well, we're gonna go rescue her, but obviously they're on with a coach who's driving over to the theme park, and obviously he doesn't want to change around because he's worried about getting in trouble with the parents pretty much after what's happened basically with the parents with Miss Malkin. So they pretty much end up taking him over to the theme park, then giving him loads of orders of snacks and things to basically to get, and then they make a dash for the bus, and then there's this hilarious to and fro, mind you, the bit where the kids drive the bus, it's just that was sort of a bit unnerving in a way. I get it's an animated movie, but still.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a scene in Harold the movie in which when Gerald had to drive the bus when the bus driver got unconscious.
Yeah, but that's when the bus driver got unconscious. But I think was Malcolm knocked unconscious?
Yes, she was.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Oh yeah, okay. Well, the kids will have to drive the bus then. Good grief. Oh wow.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of Harold vibes that we're picking up on this, if you didn't notice.
Yeah, but I mean, it's with this movie, here's the thing, it doesn't do anything overly terrible, I don't think, in regards to the action or in regards to the comedy. Everything is done right, I think, in this regard, and also you're worried about Leo when he finally gets to the Everglades, and it's quite funny how he's all switched around. He wanted to go to the Everglades before obviously he passed away, but now it may end up killing him effectively.
Yeah, where he's surrounded by all those gators.
Yeah, exactly, and funny enough, all the wild animals that are around him aren't too fussed about him until basically we get to the alligators, and then it's a fight to the death between the kids and the alligators, and that. You can totally tell this was in Florida, can't you?
Exactly, yeah. I just really found that it was funny that ordinarily you'd be afraid of approaching an alligator, but Miss Malkin was like, I'm gonna beat you up, I'm gonna throw mints at you, I'm gonna hit you, and then the alligator's like, I'm not taking this nonsense. So yeah, I mean, again, you have to be in Florida in order for you to stupidly stand up against an alligator.
Yeah. So, I think also we get the emotional reunion between like all the kids and Leo, and it's well earned. I think,
do agree.
Like it's they've built this whole relationship amongst our characters and with Leo, and to have that nice forgiveness. I think that was great. I think, and but then obviously they all have to move on because obviously they graduated from 5th grade, and the only person who's not moving on is Miss Malkin, who is now basically been made a permanent teacher, despite all the shenanigans that basically have taken place and the betrayal.
Yeah, but this time she is a 2nd grade teacher, and she gets like these freaky looking kids. I have to say that the young kids that are portrayed in this movie that are not like from the 5th grade, they look like they look like giant bobbleheads, and
they look like piranhas. That's what I thought. They're very, very weird looking.
Yeah, they look like Tiny Nose from the Owl House.
I don't know why they decided to go with that. I mean, I guess for hilarity, I guess it is, but again, I don't know. It makes me wonder, were they trying to do their own version of Minions, or do their own versions of you gotta have the small little weird character that there's lots of them running around.
But then again, it kind of reminds me of Recess, in which the kindergartners are essentially like this crazy tribal group of wearing a whole bunch of tribal gear and face paint all over them.
But that makes sense. I mean, they are wild children, basically.
And again, I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah,
that's their version of wild children that haven't grown into their bodies yet.
Yeah. So I think I can understand why they probably went with that, but I don't think they're going to catch on. I don't think.
No, I'm not going to buy toys of them.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think if the merchandise came out of with those things, I'm not too sure how well they would actually do.
Yeah,
if at all. So, I mean, here's the thing about this. This movie surprised us.
Yes.
It really did. It wasn't just the fact that, we looked at the Rotten Tomatoes scores and saw that, hey, this was doing really well. And it was just the fact that, a lot of our viewers who actually seen Leo said, oh, hey, this is actually a really good movie, and I think you should check it out. And so we want to thank you all for bringing this to our attention, and so we can get a chance to actually watch it and check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this could be a possibility that Adam Sandler could be pretty viable in animated movies again?
Yeah. So, to be fair, Hotel Transylvania, I think, was a very successful franchise.
It is.
In that regard.
Yes, it did have 4 movies, even though that the 4th one didn't have him in it. But you know what? I think that the Hotel Transylvania movies are, they're their own style of goofy, wacky slapstickness and mixed between monsters. So I guess those were pretty good for him. But I can see that at that point in time, he really needed to move on and do better stuff, and he did.
Yeah.
In recent years, he's been in a lot of great movies, so this is actually a good indication that this might be a new golden age for Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah, it might actually be a golden age for Netflix in this regard, because if they can make good animation movies like this, and who knows what else they could potentially do.
Like we said before, Pinocchio won last year's Oscar for Best Animated Movie, and that was a Netflix film. So again, we have a pretty strong contender for both Leo and Nimona to be possibly nominated for Best Picture. And considering that both Elemental and Wish very underperformed in the box office and didn't really catch on to people's attention when it first came out, I think we could be seeing another non-Disney movie winning again.
Yeah, so
the competition's pretty strong. We have the Super Mario Brothers movie, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, we have Nimona, we have Leo. Yeah, I would say that, Disney, again, needs to really shake things up because they're not doing very well. There's only one exception, and that would obviously be DreamWorks.
I think, here's the thing about this. To be fair, we should be sort of talking about, we talk about Disney's, for problems with Arun and Patricia and stuff like that. I think let's judge Leo on its own merits.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. I think, this movie, that it had a really good protagonist, it has some really great side characters, it didn't waste anybody in my opinion. Everybody got their time, and he put it in a familiar situation, and it gave us familiar scenarios. It gave us some good jokes in all of that. I think Leo has done an incredibly good job putting this movie together, and the songs are great, and the score I think is fantastic, and then getting everything of that. So I can't really wrong for anything in this movie. I got to be honest with you. We're going to score. I think at this point,
sure, why not?
I would say with what we've got, and definitely I will watch this movie again if given the opportunity. I think it's a 9. I think it is.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that this is a 9 out of 10. I think that this was a surprise for the both of us. We didn't think that, an animated film that's on Netflix starring Adam Sandler and it's produced by Happy Madison was going to be as great as it was. We were really, really shocked by how surprisingly good it was, by how funny it was. I mean, we laughed. How many times have we laughed when we watched this movie?
We laughed hilariously. Yeah, every joke just landed.
Yeah.
It really did. There wasn't a moment where it was kind of like, oh, that's pretty terrible. Oh, that's, oh yeah. Like, we didn't roll our eyes on anything like that, but it was great. It was a great, fun film.
Yeah. And I also think that the message is fantastic. It has a heartwarming message for kids who are struggling to, move on to the next step and who have their own personal problems, that they don't have to figure it out immediately, or giving like little things that they can be able to change with themselves. That way they can be able to better themselves and better the people around them. It is a great movie to show to people who are going through that. So yeah, it's not only funny, it also is not only has a great a message to learn from. It has great characters, it has great music, and also it has a really engaging story that you can be able to be invested in. So it has the total package. This is definitely one of the best animated films that we saw this year.
Cool. So, I think that's about it, really.
Yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on Leo. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you think this is the return of Adam Sandler? Or do you think it was just not that great? Let us know. So, yeah, we got one more podcast that we're going to be doing, which is about video games. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then afterwards, 2024 has a slew of good ideas that I really wanted to do in my podcast for quite a while. So yeah, until then, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Hope to see you around soon, and take care.
Take care.